Triple E Elvis 777 clocking in, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, here for the people, even if the people don't need me. Today I'm going to talk about why history is important and why the West is important. So let's start off with history, because history is really everything we look at. It's hard to predict the future, but it's easy to look at the past. So even when you look at something under a microscope, you're looking at history. Majority of the time, we could learn from our mistakes if we look at history. Or we could go back and, figure out a way that we could do it better. Okay, so I have a few notes. I haven't went into my notes yet, but I wanted to say, in history, there's a lot of stupid things that happen. Okay, so we're like, oh yeah, we're better than them because they used to dunk people in the water, right? Like they used to take witches or they used to take people and see if they're a witch, so they would dunk them in the water. We would look back now and be like, okay, that's stupid, but how are they raising their families, right? How are they treating their children? How are they coming together? How are they going about in society? Like we could say today, some of them people are probably doing better than we were, or we are, and we would say it's stupid. Sorry, the dog's barking. We would say it's stupid, looking back. So maybe 50 years in the future, we would say it's stupid that we neglect our families and look at our phone all day. They were doing that in the past. So I want to get into some of my points here about history. Like I said, we can't really predict the future. We can only speculate what we want to see or what we think is the outcome of the future. So really, everything we do in life comes back to the dog. Thinking like somebody's here or something. Everything comes back to the past. So how do we know history? So just like my notebook right now, if I die and 300 years from now somebody finds this notebook, it's history. That doesn't mean it's accurate, doesn't mean it's right. No, that's where you have to determine what you believe or what is true. And I hope with accuracy. I know people like to say the victor tells the history, but it's not always true. We found civilizations that didn't win, and we found civilizations that haven't always came out on top, but we found relics from their past, historical documents from their past, tablets from their past. So let me stay on track here because I'm going all over the place. That stinking dog is barking is bothering me right now. History is important because, one, we can learn from our mistakes, or we could go about things differently to avoid mistakes. Two, it gives us a reference to further growth, right? So if they found out the wheel here, we could look back and be like, okay, that's where this tire came from. We could kind of like, the dominoes fell all the way to us, right? So we're at this part. So we could look back to a certain time in a certain place where a certain idea was created, or where a certain painting was painted, or like we could go back and look at advancements through time. So we can't see the future, but we could see the past. So with that being said, we could look back and say, all right, how do we perfect this? That doesn't mean we came a long way where we lost certain values and steps, because we have. We've regressed rather than progressed. But that doesn't mean in all aspects. There's some aspects where we have progressed. Air condition, grocery stores. I mean, just go back where people traded, whatever they had, and they had to walk 300 miles. I don't know. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, so let me keep going on history for a second. Let me see if I wrote anything else about it. I think you get the point. And yeah, I want to talk about the present. So we only live in the present, and it moves by so fast. we can't keep in all the information. So think about the news. Think about the news real quick. We watch the news, and yes, we get the news for that day, but can we cover every single thing that happened that day? No. So even the next day, the following day, if we want to know what happened yesterday, we're looking at the past. We're looking at history. So how would you deny something that happened 3,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, my bad, when it was documented, but you won't deny what happened yesterday? Even though some people do deny what happened yesterday. But my point to that is, you still have a time, a location, a document. It is essentially what we're looking at is history. Okay, so these are points of what I'm saying history is important. History can be reflected on, and you could either speculate or you could grow from that knowledge, from looking back. Okay? I graduated high school, I didn't go to college, okay, people? Alright. Now, let me see. So, I guess I'll get into why the West is good. Okay, so when we talk about the West, we're talking about ideas that span from essentially ancient Greece all the way up. I mean, even further than that, ancient Hebrews. Okay, these are ideas that collectively made the United States. If you really look at it, the same people that created the United States had these ideas in mind. Now, I want to point at some key figures in not differences, but like obvious examples of how the ancient Greece or certain people, certain figures influenced the United States. So I wanted to add these facts in here. When you look at the idea of let's start with America. Okay, so the West is significantly influenced by ancient Greece and the aspects of the ideas of democracy. Prominent figures in philosophy, which is Socrates and Plato, mentioned a lot through our history, and then architectural. So our buildings. I mean, go look at the White House, or go look at any of those buildings in D.C. You know what I mean? They're like clearly, I would say, influenced by Greece. Now, so when you say people like Socrates and Plato, let's talk about ideas that came from these people, or the Hebrews, okay? So, this is when the West was starting, the form of the West, and this is why I'm saying the West is important. Because Socrates was always known to ask questions, and he asked, what is good? Or no, he didn't ask what is good, he said, what is good for you? Okay? So that puts you in a box. What is good for you, meaning an animal, is different than what is good for you, meaning a human. What is good for you, specifically, always comes down to a greater good. Now, some people disagree with that, but we have a time frame to look back in history where people said, what is good for me is a God. Okay? We can look back and see that they said this. Not today, whatever you feel, whatever you think, it doesn't matter. I'm saying we could look back in history and see that when Socrates asked, what is good for you, essentially the answer comes down to God. Okay, so now we got to ask ourselves, what's a Western idea of God? Well, we believe in what? One God. So where did that history come from, the belief in one God? I would say around with the Hebrews. It's a monotheistic belief, one God. That comes through history, looking at that. Looking back and reflecting and saying, okay, you know what? I believe this today, but why do I believe this today, and where did that come from? Because back in the day, not everybody, I used a lot of generalizations, but back in the day, they would say something like, okay, we believe that the rain is our God, or we believe that the nature is our God. Well, how did the belief in one God come about? And that's where you get to the Hebrews. The Hebrews say, oh, you used to pray to the water? Our God created water. I'm not going to get biblical on you, but there's many accounts in history, right, where the Hebrews believed that there was one God, and they believed that God created everything, not created those gods that other people believe in. How about that? Because they said nature was a god. Well, the Hebrews were like, well, our God created nature. So that's that. We're looking back in the past at a certain time, at a certain date. We're saying that's where that belief came from. The belief in one creator, one God. That's why the West is important, and that's why history is important. So why is the West important? I want you to go on your phone. If you have Instagram, if you have Facebook, if you have any of those, ask AI why the West is important. Ask it, say, give me key points of why the West is important. Advancements on technology, advancements on racial matters. So we're the most diverse country that's ever been, on the face of the planet. Let's see. Even technology is like a given, but we go from not even a cell phone to now sending off rockets. Like, that's the West. Cars, planes, these are good things. Now, I wouldn't say the banking system is the best, but it's what we're working with today. But the West is important because it has a mindset of this thing called freedom. But then freedom and then a belief in one God kind of contradict each other, because they rival, but then they come together for good. So it's a balance. But everything in life is a balance. And I think when it comes to history, and why that's important, is because we can look back and see where these thoughts and ideas came from. They didn't just come from America. They came from ancient Greece, the ancient Middle East. You're talking about ancient Hebrews. If you look at the Bible, it's just a document of where all, a bloodline came through. And then the Founding Fathers looked at that bloodline and said, okay, you know what? We're going to take these ideas that we agree with, and we're going to fight for them, because we believe that we are sovereign. We believe that we should be governed by God. I would say that. They believed the majority of the time that we should be governed by God. I'm not saying everybody go out and be a sovereign citizen. I hope I got my point across here. Let me just read a few of my notes just in case. I pretty much got everything. Pretty much, so ask yourself the question, what is good for you? And then really dig deep into that, because a lot of people don't know what's good for them. People don't even know what they believe anymore. It's insane. And that's another thing I want to talk about. This is off topic. We understand why the West is good. We understand why history is good, or important. So let's just say important. The West is important and history is important. But off topic and unrelated, it's sad to see how the society's getting. Like, it seems like we're on the brink of war. It seems like everybody hates each other. It seems like, I don't know, people don't have values anymore. It seems like relationships are dying. Instagram's destroyed relationships. Regular people think they're 10s. Like, come on now. And it's sad. So, and for somebody like me, I value things like character. Like, if you have respect, if you're trustworthy, if I could be around you and you're not lying all the time. I value these things. I like these things. And it's harder and harder each day to find somebody like that, especially a female. Not hating on all females, because I don't know all females, but to me, it's easier to just stay alone or be by myself than to be around certain people. But also, I'm not always on the market every day. I learned that I'm a give or take. I'm give and take. So sometimes I like being around people. Sometimes I like being by myself. And it seems like lately, I like being by myself a lot more than being around people in a party setting. How about that? But I do like them short little mamas. If you're Italian from New York or from the Bronx, and if you're a little short little mama, come on down. The price is right. Italian, Latina, But yeah, like I was saying though, it's rough, man. It's rough that people like lost their like just how to be humans to each other, and that's why we can look back at the past and be like, well, they weren't like that. Now they yes they had problems just like we have problems today, but you can't judge the whole society because of certain beliefs like dunking them in the water or I don't know the 50s beating up people. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like they were humans too, just like we are. We struggle with problems too. So that doesn't mean we can't look back and be like, wow, they had a better family structure than we do today, or they treated people better than we do today. Because I think today is, it's like we have smartphones, but we don't even have each other. You know, we have social media, but we're not social. It's sad. It really is. And I can't be the only one feeling that. I mean, maybe there's like the Diddy parties that everybody's getting social at, but I'm not invited to those, and nor would I go to those. So, we could always look back and see different times. We can't look in the future. We can only speculate about the future. So that being said, I guess this one's done for me. I mean, I can go on for about an hour ranting about who knows what. So, Triple Elvis, clocking out, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen.